It looks like things are heating up in California between the churches and the COVID-19 lockdown orders. Now, Harvest Rock Church in California is actually suing the governor because he's banning in-home Bible studies. And he said that these were put in place in order to slow the spread of coronavirus. Now, reading from California government's COVID-19 website, it says that state public health directives prohibit professional, social, and community gatherings. And then they go on to define the gathering. It says, gatherings are defined as meetings or other events that bring together persons from multiple households at the same time for a shared or group experience in a single room, space, or place such as an auditorium, stadium, arena, large conference room, meeting hall, or other indoor or outdoor space. And goes on to say, they pose an especially high danger of transmission and spread of COVID-19. The last I heard, a few more churches decided to sue as well. Now, at first I thought this case sounded ridiculous because on the face of it, they made it seem as if Christians were actually being singled out and they were being unfairly persecuted. But in reality, the ban was put in place to apply to everyone, not just Christian worship services. But then I remembered how these guidelines came from the same governor who actually went out of his way to encourage people to protest when the protests started. And as you already know, obviously a protest is also a large gathering, and one that's far larger than a small in-home Bible study. He made a tweet on July 5th in which he wrote, "Protesters have the right to protest peacefully, not be harassed, not to be shot at by rubber bullets or tear gas. Today I'm calling for the creation of a new statewide standard for use of force in protest. Acts of violence against peaceful protesters will not be tolerated." So if you look closely at that tweet, not only was he in support of these large gatherings, the protests, but he actually went on to argue that the protesters deserve to be protected from rubber bullets and tear gas, and he issued a statewide protection order to protect them. But this is ironic, especially given that he somehow neglected to issue protection for them to protect them from contracting COVID-19. But that becomes even more interesting when you realize that protecting people from COVID is the reason why he decided to ban in-home Bible studies. If COVID is so dangerous that we should ban indoor Bible studies of small groups of people for gathering in a single small place, then it's obvious that allowing giant protests is a far greater way to maximize any potential damage and the fatality rate. The church that's suing him actually calls him out on this and accuses him of not only violating their freedom of religious expression, but also the 14th Amendment, which was put in place to bar states from denying citizens equal protection of the law. In the lawsuit, they said, while the governor has unilaterally and significantly restricted the number of individuals permitted to gather in plaintiffs' churches, he has imposed no similar restrictions on the untold thousands of protesters who have gathered all throughout California cities with no threat of criminal sanction and no social distancing or restrictions whatsoever. And the governor explicitly encouraged such large gatherings of protesters while condemning churches for singing hymns in their churches. So this might leave you wondering, what are the relevant differences that would allow one gathering to be encouraged and the other to be a criminal offense? And unless there's something that I don't know, it seems to be that the only relevant difference that I can see here would be a preferred ideology. It looks like the governor has made exceptions for one ideology over another. If one ideological group decides to defy the law and gets criminally prosecuted, then the other one should as well. Now, if you want my 2 cents, I personally believe that the safety of everyone should be equally protected in or outside of the church. And I also believe that freedom of religion doesn't allow for people to engage in dangerous acts or to put people's lives in danger. And thank God for that law, or Islam would be a much bigger problem in America today. But if it's our obligation as the church to support the government's decision to protect Americans from harm, then this law should be equally applied to all other ideologies equally. After all, that's what the law is supposed to protect us from, right? So at least on this point, I do think that the church makes a fair point. Now, much more could be said, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. So go ahead and leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. And while you're at it, check out this video where I respond to how some people were using the Bible in support of the riots during the protests. And the next time that you find the government choosing one ideology over another, what are you going to say?
What do you mean?